Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's nice of you to keep showing up.
I
Well,
know.
I appreciate the community here and for all you guys do to support. So thank
Well,
you.
Oh,
yes. Um,
we're trying. We're hoping this meeting will catch on with
I
more people.
invited I invited a few friends to jump on today because we're excited to hear about the legislation that you've got on the
oh, good.
agenda today.
Yay.
You're so nice. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
great.
awesome. And I
Yeah.
just barely emailed you, Shanna. Did you see that?
I did. I just barely responded back. Thanks for
Oh,
reaching
good.
out. That was really nice of you.
Yeah. Did you end up, well, let's get the call started because then maybe could you tell us, did you go to the board meeting last month or?
Yeah, so it was just this last week, and I went
Just,
and
just, just, can you just pause? Because we're gonna get
yeah,
the meeting started. Wait, have we started recording? I guess we
Yeah,
did.
I started it. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just officially welcome, and Corinne might
okay.
be too, or somebody from our group. But okay, and I'm gonna let's see. Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Oh, it's Dina and on our call, but thanks for coming to
Oh, okay.
uh, our Child First Policy Center weekly community call. I'm Kathleen Barlow, and I am a member of the Child First team and also serve on the leadership team of Smartphone Free Childhood US. Um, Let me just read about Child First Policy Center. We are a parent-led advocacy organization dedicated to protecting children before harm takes hold. Through rigorous research, public education, and policy engagement, we ensure that every decision shaping how children learn, grow, and develop puts their safety and well-being first, not as an afterthought, but as the starting point. So, welcome. And also, we have Allie Terry here. Do you want to say hi, Allie?
Hello. Yeah, thanks for coming, Shanna. You're just so great.
It's true. Shanna had reached out to you, right, Allie, about
Yes.
going to her local Alpine School District board meeting a couple weeks
Hmm.
ago, and that's my district too. Even though I don't have kids in school anymore in the district, that is where I live, and so I would love to attend. I've never been to an Alpine meeting. I've been to some at Jordan where I was teaching a couple of years back, and I've been to I think Granite, but I want to do more, and so. Yeah, I was actually out of state when the last boarding meeting was happened. But Shanna, tell us. So Shanna is a member of our community, and tell us how it went at the board meeting.
Okay, so I spoke at the board meeting about 2 months ago, and I felt really confident after that one. I just felt like I was well prepared and well spoken. And this time, I think the result is good this time, but I didn't feel like my execution of the speech was as good because as I sat there for the hour before while they're doing recognitions and stuff, I kept like overthinking what I was saying and I would scratch out my notes and rewrite it. And then I would go back to what I had scratched out. And anyhow, so as I was
I hear
reading
you.
my notes to them, I just felt like I had a few awkward pauses, but ultimately I think it went well.
Good.
um so I presented to them letters from 48 people um
Wow,
throughout the
Good.
district.
That's awesome,
Thank you.
Shanna.
that's
Well, and you know
amazing.
what, was cool about it is I had only decided that Friday, so a week ago today, I decided I was going to speak at it, and the board meeting was on Tuesday. So that Friday, I started messaging friends and
Wow.
people that I knew lived in the district, and inviting them to just write something that I could take. And I was able to collect so many letters, and I think that
Wow.
that was really cool in that short amount of time frame. And
Yeah.
that just shows like I'm not alone in thinking
Yes.
that 8 years old is too young to have an active Gmail account,
Yeah.
especially if we don't know about it.
Right.
And so anyhow, in my speaking to them, um I think it was really good. I mean, I watched the video back and every single one of them look up from whatever they were doing when I say that I've got messages from 48 people.
Good.
And
Did
then
you
at
bring
the end,
physical copies, Shanna?
yeah, I brought physical copies. And then at the end, I asked who they wanted me to hand them to. And the superintendent himself raised his hand. So I handed them to him directly.
Good. Oh my God.
And yeah, it was good. I think it was good. I'm feeling hopeful.
Yeah.
And so and I also I looked at your guys's notes from a couple weeks ago. I wasn't on the call for the board member that had given tips, but I looked
Oh
at
yeah.
I did review that and I did start my message to them. Like my first full minute is just thanking the people that I do feel like I've been in contact with and that have taken the time to hear. And so I think that was well received. A couple people mentioned that they appreciated that.
Good.
Um, anyhow, I think it was good. Afterwards, there were three different board members who approached me in the parking lot and spoke to
Wow.
me. Well, one of them I not. I also made it very clear, like I don't want to talk to anyone in the parking lot. I don't think that this is like I didn't want anyone to feel like I had like tracked him down or anything like that. But one of them I did talk to. The other two approached me, and they were all three very like willing to. I don't know. They were complimentary and they were in agreement of this is a concern, and they were really nice about it. The next morning, I had an email from the communications director as well as the superintendent himself, and I didn't give anyone my email, so they would have had to go looking for my email. So
Wow.
I'm feeling hopeful by that. And then also the next day at our school community council meeting, the president of the school board was there and she discussed the message as well. I wasn't able to be at that community council meeting, but the parents that were told me about it, and they said that she's definitely talking about it and that they're actively talking about it. So I'm feeling hopeful.
Yeah.
um it's
I
not
mean, that is
not
an
done yet, but
amazing response, Shanna. I've never had
yeah.
that kind of response from making a comment at a board meeting. So honestly, that is really amazing. And I
Yeah,
guess,
and I
Seriously.
do I
yeah.
do want to add, like everyone that I've spoke to at Alpine School District has been so kind and so professional, and I made sure to mention that in my message to them, but they really have been kind.
Great.
I want them to be urgently working on this, but I know they are discussing it. I just am hoping that by them seeing that I'm not the only parent concerned about this, that they have those physical letters. I hope they can see that there needs to be a little bit more urgency behind it. Oh, and the school board president, or the president of the school board for Aspen Peaks, one of the new districts that will begin in a year from now.
Oh yeah.
Um, she was there. She actually recognized me from my speech from 2 months ago. And then as I was
What's her
talking to
name?
her
Do you know?
briefly, I can't think of her
No,
name. If
sorry.
I saw her, I could look it up. But anyhow, she was just so sweet and very complimentary. Both before the meeting, she said, "Oh, that's how I know you. You spoke a couple months ago." Was so nice about it. And then as she was passing by walking out, she was very complimentary and nice, and so I'm hoping that maybe those guys can help create the urgency too of like they want it for their district to
So
Yes.
change too,
did you say that
so
lady's going to be part of the school board at the new district?
she's the
Yeah.
president of the school board in the new district for
Okay.
Alpine Peaks,
Okay.
not mine, but
Okay.
anyhow,
Aspen
I'm
Peaks,
feeling
did you say
hopeful.
it's called? Is it
Aspen Peaks is
Aspen?
the
Aspen?
new district that will be I think for like the Highland area.
Okay. Hmm. And
Okay,
where
From
do
I'm
you
my
just
live
looking
understanding.
at.
again?
Sorry, what?
Where do you live again, Shanna?
I'm in Orem, so I'll be in Timpanogos School District
Okay,
in a year
Tippino's.
from now.
Okay, okay. Wow, that's excellent. I'm just taking down a couple of notes because, yeah, that's great. Do you happen to know Joylyn Lincoln is she one of the ones who t spoke to you on the Alpine
That might have
board?
been her. If I saw her picture, I would recognize her,
Okay, yeah.
but
I just know her from actually way back in our college days. We went to school together and we're neighbors. And I just saw recently that she's on the Alpine board, but I don't know if if she's remaining on the Alpine board or if she's one of the people that's moving, or I don't know.
Well, that will be, oh, oh,
Well, I don't know
I
if
don't, let me look her up. What's her name again?
her name's Joy Lynn, Joylin.
And
Um,
she's on Alpine's board?
yeah.
Okay, I'll look her up, but
Okay.
we can
Okay, cool.
continue on. Thank you for asking for an update. I wasn't planning to share that, but thank
Well,
you.
we appreciate it. And this is exactly why we are doing these calls because we are hoping to empower people to do things like this. And so it's awesome. So I have been meaning myself to find out when upcoming board meetings are. And so just before the call, I just actually started a little Google Doc and I put it in here. I put it in the chat so you can access this. And I think I gave everybody I mean, permission to make comments in it. But what I wanted to do, and if you want to even look at it, well, I just started with Alpine because I was thinking of you, Shanna, and because it is
Okay.
my district. But I just put some information about where the board meetings are, what time they are, and then I found the dates for the rest of the year for Alpine, so I put those in there. And then Alpine had a really great section of they had their live stream there. Then they also have just comment or they just kind of have instructions about what you can do in the public comments. So I thought that was great. You can do a written public comment if there, I guess if there are too many people, I think they only have 30 minutes allotted for public comment. So were there a lot of other people commenting when you did, Shanna?
So 2 months ago when I spoke, I was the only person that did a public comment. And one
Okay.
thing that I don't love is they start with their recognition of like awards and
Yes.
stuff at the very beginning, but then
Yes.
they excuse people to leave right before the public comment. So
Oh, yeah.
most of the room, like the room will be totally packed and then most of the people leave, which is kind of discouraging.
Yeah.
However, so 2 months ago, I was the only speaker. This time, there were probably four speakers before me talking about, they were all on the same topic of they are employees of the school district working as custodians and assistants of some capacity, and they're hoping to negotiate their pay
Okay.
raise.
Gotcha.
And so, but I sat amongst all those people and they were all so sweet and so supportive and very much like, I can't believe they have it at that age. Why do they have, you know what I mean? So
Good.
we all engaged in good conversation and but
That's
yeah.
excellent. That's so good. And
Yay.
they should they should change that to excuse people after the public comment at least, I feel like. I
I
mean,
know.
geez, that's kind of lame,
Like
but
I hate to think that they don't want people to hear the public comment, but it kind of
yeah.
makes you feel like they
Yeah.
don't really want people to,
I I
but
suppose
that's
that
probably
could
not
be.
the case.
I suppose that could be. But one thing you mentioned, those other four people were all had the same topic. I think that's where it would be so cool if we could get people in our districts to come with us, right? Did you ask anybody else to come and do a comment with you, Shanna?
No, I've never asked people to come give a comment with me yet.
Uh-huh.
I just feel like I'm trying to take very respectful approaches and like, um, I'm just taking it one step at a
Yeah.
time. And
Yep.
so now I feel like they understand that I'm not alone in this and that
Yes.
they have heard from 48 other people. But I do feel like, I'll give it some time and depending on
Yeah.
those updates, that's probably going to be my next step is having at least 10 people with me to speak, and then also hopefully I can get a room full of us there, maybe like wearing the same pin or something. I'm hoping I don't have to go that direction. I'm
Mm,
hoping that this is where it makes movement, but um if needs be, I think that's my next step,
that's
um
great. Did you
is
see that?
probably that.
Well, on the doc, I noticed there's no meeting in Alpine in June, which I think is probably well, I think some, boards. I was on a small board and yeah, we did often meeting in the summer. So, and the next meeting for Alpine, I think I put on there is July 14th. So I'm going to put that in my calendar. I'm going to plan on being at that meeting to make a comment, not about probably that, but just about screens and schools, probably in some form. And so the other thing I was thinking that I've been thinking, I've never been to a state board meeting like the USBE. Have you been to any, Allie?
Mm-mm.
No. So that's what I
Yeah.
want to do. So that's part of my comment, part of my in my doc. And so for the USBE, I got their dates listed. The next one is June 5th. So I'm putting that on my calendar too. And then they don't have one in July either, and they'll go back, in August. But the USBE didn't have a nice section like Alpine does about making comments. Like I just think this is a very, very unfamiliar territory for I think for most people, right? And so I think it was really nice that Alpine had that section really laying out what to expect and what to do and all that. I'm going to try to dig deeper on the Board of Education, the State Board of Education's website, but I also feel like it's kind of annoying that I wish that they could just make that front and center, easy to find. Like this is the information about making a public comment. But I thought if we could all in our individual districts add to that document information about our districts, it will make it a lot easier as we continue with these community calls to find that information about people's individual districts. Do you have that kind of information about your district, Ellie, or do you know?
I can find it. I mean, it's on their website, but I do feel like, yes, I feel like USBE's is confusing. And if I remember correctly, I also feel like my school district, which is Canyons,
Yeah,
is confusing as well.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's awesome that Alpine is not.
Yeah, it is. It's really good.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, this is exciting. I think again, this is why we're doing this is we're trying to just join together so that we can figure these things out together as we go. So, anyways, well, today's call, we wanted to talk about the Balance Act, which is one of the bills that was passed and that Child First Policy Center ran this past legislative session. And Allie was a big part of that, working with Liz and Corinne, that's not really Corinne on the call.
Yeah.
Dina on there, but Corinne is our director, and Corinne is very seasoned in legislation, as is Dina actually, and they know a lot of the ins and outs and really taught Allie and Liz a lot. I feel like I wasn't able to be there
Yes.
up on the hill that much, but so Allie, oh good, she put in the yes, HB 273, the Balance Act. So
Yeah, so you can look it up. I can also put the link in
I'll
there.
put the link in while you're talking.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Shanna, if you end up having any specific questions that you want answered, we can talk about them. But so the Balance Act becomes effective in July 1st, 2027. So this next year, so for the next year, they're going to start, like school districts need to start forming a policy. So the SAFE Act will, or not the SAFE, oh my gosh, the Balance Act will become the default. So the policy that is written in the bill, like I have it printed off here, will be the default policy if a school district doesn't come up with their own, which is great with me. I would like school districts to keep it as close to the original as possible, but it does allow them to, like school districts to, make certain amendments, like for rural schools or things like that, that might not work for. But in reality, any school district could make a policy that is way less effective. So again, this is where parents being an advocate comes in, is that it matters that us parents show up, write our, principals and school board members and superintendent that we want uh, a strict policy, or that we want it to follow the original as closely as possible. And they have to, in the bill, it states that they have to hold a meeting allowing parent input before they implement a policy if it's different than the original, the one that's in the bill. So if they don't, you can call them out on that. But yeah, so they it says that they have to allow a parent meeting for that allows parent input and public comment. So I don't know if they would do that, try to include it as in a board meeting or make a separate meeting. I think I will encourage my school district to do a separate meeting so that it's not quickly passed over. I don't know if they will do that, but I think if they'll do a separate meeting, then it can allow for more time and then also maybe bring up more attention as it not just being a school board meeting thing. So
How do you ask them, Ellie? Are you planning to just ask them via email if they'll do
yeah,
a separate
yeah,
meeting?
I would just email them and they might say no, they probably will say no, but and again that this is where it like matters to have like a little community, right, of like other parents, because then if they have several parents asking them a similar thing, we
Yeah.
would like a meeting where we can um, you know, talk more about it. And another thing is with the board meetings, they really have to follow like a certain protocol, right? And an
Yep.
order to things. And
Yep.
so I do think, for example, like in a board meeting, they don't comment back to you on your public comment. Like you just make
Right.
your public comment and then you're done and sit down.
Right.
And so I'm like, that I wouldn't prefer a setting like that for this, because I would want an interaction of like us being able to talk back and forth. Like, how come you wouldn't want this um, policy to be like the one in the bill, or like just to see
Yes.
why what their issues are with it if they have any. Um,
Yes. Another thing you could do, Allie, that I was just thinking, when I served on the just the charter school board that my kids were going to in Eagle Mountain, I served on there for a couple of years, and something that sometimes visitors would, and I don't even know actually, because I guess they would email the head of our board and ask if they could come and talk about a certain subject, like not a public comment thing, but somewhere where they actually came to the board meeting and joined the board meeting and gave information about a certain topic.
oh, that's cool.
So
Okay.
maybe you could request that too, even if that you could just come and I guess maybe that's just, I don't know how different that would be. Yeah, I guess,
Yeah.
if they weren't gonna set aside and do a completely separate meeting, maybe you and Liz could at least ask to come and talk to them about the Balance
Mhm.
Act. That might be
Yeah,
good.
for sure. Well, yeah, I that would be I mean, that's a good idea to have like where you can just address and interact
Yes, where
about,
it's
because that is one thing that I have felt all along the way, is it's like I'm trying to explain like the magnitude of this issue to you
yes.
in 2 minutes time in my public comment, or if I even go meet individually with the superintendent, it's still like, okay, what, you probably allotted 15 minutes for me to be here. That feels like such a minimal amount of time for me to explain to you,
Mhm.
yeah, all of the issues that are encompassed within tech.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
So,
I I'm
yeah.
wondering if these guys, if Shanna and I don't know, are other guests, if
Oh, it's my
they
mom.
oh hi.
He's
Hi,
so
Ellie's mom.
sweet.
Who was one of the people who wrote a letter. Thank you,
Oh,
Allie's
good.
Oh,
mom.
that's so
She's
sweet.
the best. She's a good support.
Wow, that's so
I
Beautiful.
excellent.
know.
Thank you.
I met her up at the Capitol. Oh, on the day that Jared Cooney Horvath
Oh,
was
yes,
right,
yes,
met her parents. They were so
yes.
nice. But anyways, because I was going to ask, I don't know how well you understand the Balance Act, Shanna, and if you were looking for like an explanation of what the Balance Act is, were you, or do you kind of know about it, or?
I mean, I know the basics of it, but I would love to deep dive into it. I would love to hear any sort of explanation of it.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
Would you mind, Ellie, talking a
Yeah,
little bit
I'll just give
about
it,
it?
yes, let me give a little overview first. So,
That would be
so
great.
the Balance Act so this is the bill that focuses on the hardware. So not, it's not addressing any of the software, but it's just saying like, what does the actual device look like in the classroom? So our kids, um, so it prohibits use grades K through 3, um, unless in third grade, that's when they start doing state testing and they use the computers to do state testing. So they will use them to prep for state testing. But that should be the only thing that they're using it for. And
Good.
then in grades fourth through fifth or sixth, just depending on like what your elementary, like what grade it goes through. So then it limits time for them to, it says, okay, so it prohibits a one-to-one device. So it's more of just like a classroom set, right? It's like on a cart and there's not a specific, there should not be a specific device that is assigned to your child. And so even if they still all have, you know, their own that they can go and use, like if there's a device available for every child, it's not like right now every kid has their own that they use that same one every single class, every single day, for the entire year, right? It's like they check it out for them at the beginning of the year. And then,
Allie, I'm
yeah,
sorry. Are you talking about grades K through 3, or have you
no,
moved?
this is fourth through fifth or sixth, just depending on when your elementary school ends.
Gotcha. Okay.
Allie, can I
Yeah.
ask what the advantage of not having a specific, like I know we don't want them taking it home, but what would be the advantage of them not having one assigned specifically to them at the school versus they just grab whichever one's out of the cart that day?
Yeah, I think, at least from my perspective, I feel like when a kid has their like one specifically assigned to them, they feel like it's mine. They feel
Yes.
more
They have this
like they
ownership.
can do whatever
Yes.
with it, right? Like this is my
Okay.
computer. I can get on it and play games if I want. I can
Yes.
get on it and do this. But
Yes.
whereas it's like, oh, somebody else might be using this,
Yes.
even though they still should be logging into their own account, right? But I think it kind of just like dissipates that, yeah, the ownership
Would
and yeah, go ahead.
I'm not I'm not super familiar with the actual devices. I know that you are well versed with them.
Mhm.
Because your students have used them, I think, more often than mine have.
Yeah.
Um, do you have a concern that one student might like look something up on his device and then my daughter uses it the next day because she signed into her own? Will she be able to see any sort of search history or
No,
anything?
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
So the the only thing which I also think that if they write like if there's not activity on it within a certain like for so long, it will lock the user out. But that
Okay.
is like one thing that they would need to like kids are going to have to be diligent about lock like or logging
Logging.
themselves out. But that should not like I can use the same computer, the same Chromebook and log into each of my kids' accounts and each of them is different, right? Like it pulls up
Okay.
their own.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for using your experience to
Yeah,
teach
for
me.
sure.
Can I
And
just add something
yeah,
to that as
yeah.
well? Just well, as I've been, I was a teacher for 10 years, Shanna, in middle and high school, and stopped teaching in 2024, but I've been subbing in the Granite School District this year. And I will just tell you that it is a mess with Chromebooks. It is a mess. Like kids are not on task. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is
Mhm.
another reason just having them breaking this habit of for teachers and kids and students of having this Chromebook and having access to it all the time. It is going to be so good
Mhm.
for students and teachers. And let me just share one little story that I feel like kind of illustrates what has happened and what a crutch Chromebooks have become, not only for students, but for teachers. So, in the Smartphone Free Childhood, we are planning, we're calling it an unplugged project. And I'm planning this with a few other girls that we are going to be launching, and we're hoping is going to happen across the nation in the fall. that we're encouraging. We have kind of a toolkit that we're going to be putting out for schools to kind of unplug for a week, up to a week. And we are going to have a mild, medium, and spicy version. So if the school or school district decides they are just going to do it for a day, where they're unplugging completely from tech for the day, and hopefully that's going to go into home life too, as much as possible, as much as parents are willing to take part. So they can do it for one day, they can do it for a couple days, or they can do it for the whole school week. So we're really excited about this. I've been working with a woman named Alyssa in New York City who said that she is already launching something in New York City with her local school, and they're just kind of doing this separately, and they're doing it now. And she said that some feedback that they got was that there were teachers who were saying, and they're only doing it for a day, that there were teachers who were saying, okay, we're just going to take a field trip on that day then, so that we don't have to deal with what to do in the classroom with our students when they're not going to have a Chromebook. So I was just blown away by that. Like, this is the point that we've come to, that I feel like, and of course it's a generalization, but I think a number of teachers have forgotten how to teach in an analog way. And so
Mhm.
and so we need to yeah, we need to pull back for everybody's sakes so that
Yeah.
people can learn, students and teachers can learn how to be together in real life in the classroom again. So, anyways, that's
Yeah, I think that too. I don't know if you remember, but when we had Erin Longacre on, who's a USBE school board member, a couple weeks ago, she talked about how she was subbing in a class and how it's like just how difficult it is, right? Because kids are so out of control,
yes,
probably due to like screen addiction. And
yes,
so it really is, there's so much of it that is like, this needs to be happening at home as well.
yes.
Um, but it's hard, right? Like, so it's hard for the kids to show up and the teacher to deal with the fallout of it, but,
I
or
know.
like, but it,
Yeah.
yeah, it just is necessary. Um,
So you were
but
telling Allie, I'm sorry, about grades 4 through 5 or 6, right?
yeah, just so in elementary. So one thing that is
Elementary.
true across all of elementary is that this bill prohibits homework that requires access to the internet or instructional technology. So no child in all of elementary school, they shouldn't have any homework that requires them to use the internet. So
Excellent.
that's awesome.
But
Um,
will they have one-to-one devices, Allie?
No, they should not. So the bill says prohibiting a required ratio of one electronic device to one student. But like I said, we know that they already have more than enough devices to give each child to have it be one to one. But
Mhm.
it just means that, right, like you're not going to have this specific one assigned to you.
Right. Gotcha.
Um, so yeah, and then there right now, kids shouldn't be bringing the Chromebooks home in elementary school. But if they are, like that would definitely prohibit this as well. I
Okay.
don't know of a school district that does that, but maybe there are some.
Okay.
Um, and then there is, okay, so then for middle school and high school, um, so currently in middle school and in middle school, all students, the default is they bring the Chromebook home. Oh, sorry, let me go back to fourth and sixth.
Okay.
Or yeah, fourth through sixth is that, or just the upper grades of elementary, is
Hmm.
that they should only, the devices should only be used for instructional technology with direct teacher supervision. So it should not be like, hey, go get on this app and do this. It's like
Right.
you are interacting, the teacher is up there leading, and you are interacting, following along with the teacher.
That's
Um, which I think that might be tricky because I feel like a lot of how school operates right now is very much like, okay, go get on your computer, go get on this app, and now I'm going to take this time to go do something else, right?
yes.
Would,
Yes.
so would that mean that they won't use clever like their lessons anymore?
So that's a good question because I'm thinking of this in like, so my kids, I guess like in elementary they use Lexia. Do you guys use Lexia? Like a reading one?
Not anymore. We use one similar to Lexia, but they don't use Lexia anymore. They did that last year, but not this
Okay.
year.
So I do think like that's going to be interesting, because I don't think that that would, I
Maybe
don't think
it's
that,
called Lexia. I get them confused. I'm sorry.
I
There's so
know.
many.
Well,
There's
they're
so
different.
different
They're
things.
different district to district, right? Like each district can contract with different companies. So, um,
And it's going to be a learning curve. It is going to be a learning curve trying to switch over what, when you guys are talking about this, it's not going to be a quick fix, but it's going to be heading in the right
well,
direction.
and Shanna, let me say this too. I think that this is a place where we would probably get a decent amount of pushback from teachers, is saying like, but no, these programs are really great because they're self-paced, right? So like Lexia or ST Math, it's self-paced. And so the kids, if a kid excels, they can move ahead quicker than, a child that maybe is behind. And so I think that they probably will really try to push back on that and maybe make some exceptions to what is considered, um, acceptable technology to be used in the classroom. And so, but that's like where, depending on how you look at it, in some ways it's great that there's local control because if show up at your school district um, or school and say like, no, this is what I love Lexia and ST Math and all those things, and I think it's a great use, then yeah, then your school district's policy could look different than another school district's. In my experience, I don't feel like those programs are very beneficial. Like I feel like my kids hate them. They feel like they're annoying, and they, to me, I feel like it just is like another game, like a gamified learning thing. And I don't know if it's Lexia, but in ST Math, like they can just click, 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 and then it'll like, if they get the wrong answer so many times, it gives them the right answer, And so I'm like, I don't really
Really?
feel like, or it shows them how to do it. Yes. And so I don't feel like there's, right, that's not like deep knowledge that's going on there, deep learning. And so I would just rather like my child have a worksheet, um,
Yes.
but, or bring a book and read a book, or I don't know. But so these are things that just like be aware of, right? Because they're things that you might want to talk to your district about when they're considering implementing a policy.
But
So,
technically, if they were following the legislation, how it's written, those things would be no more. Those
right.
those learning programs. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Because
you.
it's not teacher-led instruction.
To
Yeah.
add on to your comment about um it's some people think it's great because it can advance their child at their own path. That leads me to think, like, I think all the time, like, I really have enjoyed public school, but I also think all the time, like, are they doing things at the school that I could have my child home earlier in the day and I could be teaching them those things? And I feel like if that's our biggest argument of why they should be using those programs, well, then I feel like that is a reason that so many parents are just choosing to teach them at home, because why do I need to send them to the school to do the same program they could be doing at home?
Totally. Well, and this is really interesting is because while they say that in one breath, right, of like, no, it allows them to advance ahead if they are ready. Um, it's interesting because my oldest, he's in high school now, but when he was in elementary school, he would blow through those programs, like he would finish them way early on in the year, like all units of Lexia, and when he would tell the teachers that he was done, they would say, well, just start back over, just do it again. So he would get through it like 2 or 3 times every year, the entire thing. And
Oh my
and
God.
when I know, and when I asked, wait, why is he not like, why aren't we progressing him on to the next thing? They said because that wouldn't be equitable. That wouldn't be equitable for him to move on to like a higher
Oh my
grade
God.
level than everybody else. So we just have to keep him here. So I'm like, okay, so maybe that's kind of true to a degree, right? But it's not really advancing. If your kids really are past grade level, it's not allowing them to advance past that.
I can't believe that. I mean, that is just so ridiculous, Allie. But also, let me just say that as a sub this year, and granted, I have had sub instructions a number of times where they have said once they finish their work, they can do whatever they want, including playing games on the computer.
Mhm.
So if they're saying, yeah, if they're saying that they're doing this so that kids can move on, that is definitely not what's happening. I can guarantee you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, and yeah, that's like it was in third grade that my son, that the one that I'm talking about that, would blow through everything so fast. That's when he first started telling me about, oh yeah, no, I get done with my work and now I can just watch um you or NBA highlights on YouTube. It was like, excuse me, what are you doing? Why don't you read a book? No, I don't want to read a book. I want to watch NBA highlights.
Yeah. This
Ridiculous.
is interesting too because in the Screens in Schools work group that I belong to, which is a division of the Screen Time Action Network out of Boston, Dina's part of this group now too. But they just people, there's many people, and we have this big listserv email group that's very overwhelming because we have so many people always like asking questions or saying what they're doing in their districts. But a question that came up recently was, what can we tell teachers as far as keeping kids occupied when they finish stuff early? Because again, this is something that, and I cannot believe how quickly this norm has changed, has morphed. Because like when I was a kid, and you talked about it, Allie, we always had a book with us in our backpack, right? So that we could
Mhm.
read. And
Yeah.
that was the normal thing to do if you finished early was you would read your book. And
Or do you want to know what I did? Is I drew.
or
I would just
drawing.
draw.
Yes, that's another thing too. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Right, we need to change this norm of, and there are literally in this question in the Screens and Schools group, there are literally teachers that are not sure what to do because they want to keep their students busy and occupied once they're finished, and they're afraid of, I guess, pandemonium if they don't have something on a screen for them to do afterwards. And so
Yeah.
a bunch of us were making suggestions of, I mean, there's all kinds of things, puzzles and board games. There are things that you can have available in your classroom that kids can do that are not screen related. But again, it
Yeah.
just goes to show how the norms in our classrooms have changed so drastically in such a short time. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you remember this from last year, but my daughter, so I had opted her out last year, the last couple months of school from using a Chromebook.
And how old
But
is she?
she was in fifth grade at the time. So she's in middle school now, but was in elementary at the time. And they do the state reports in fifth grade. And so she called me from school she said, I need you to come take me to the library right now. And because we're working on our state reports, and since I can't use the Chromebook, I can't research anything. And I said, well, I am unable to come get you and take you to the library right now. Can you go to the school library? Like the school has a library, just ask the teacher if you can go there and check out some books. And she said, I already asked my teacher that, and she said that we have no good books in the library anymore. I was like,
What?
what? Oh,
What?
I mean, it's just crazy, but I hope that I mean, I was like, I'm pretty sure that the state information for Alabama has not changed since when it was created, that date is still the same. That's not outdated
Yeah,
anymore. So
right.
go find a book on Alabama in the library.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Wow.
I know. But anyways,
A little crazy.
I forgot why I was telling you that. But anyway, so yes, just grades all of elementary school should have a much better balanced approach to what devices look like. Like in my daughter's class last year, which she did have a very wild class, but they were spending like 4 hours a day on a Chromebook, and that's nuts.
Yes.
So it would really help prohibit that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Kids
and
are going to
then
be more regulated if they are doing in real life activities as opposed to being on those screens. The screens are so hyper stimulating, and so it's like a vicious cycle where teachers are trying to keep them calm by staying on their screens, but it's in the long run, it's just making things worse and worse. So,
yeah, I think it will probably be a couple weeks of a rough adjustment period of
yes,
kids being really wild.
yes,
But within a couple weeks, they'll figure it out, right?
yeah, I agree. I really do. Yeah,
They'll detox.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So
Um,
we were talking about middle school then, right?
yeah,
So,
so middle school. So right now, the default for middle school is that like your kid gets assigned a Chromebook at the beginning of the year, and then it's theirs. They bring it home every day until the end of school. And then once school is ending, then they check it back in. And so the default will now switch where the kids will leave the Chromebook at school. And if you want them to bring it home or need them to bring it home because you don't have a computer at home, then you can opt in to doing that. But but I'm really excited about that because
yes, yes.
I feel like, yeah, there are plenty of times where my kids have their dumb computers and I totally think they're doing homework, and then I walk behind them and I'm like, get off that stupid game right now.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Allie, but do
So,
you feel like without your kids bringing those Chromebooks home, you would have known about some of the issues that you have found?
yeah, so that is really interesting.
That is- yeah.
Yes, I would still, so you actually can log, if you have like your own Chromebook at home, it is a little bit different if you log in from like a Mac or um, a like a something that's not a Chromebook. But if you log into a Chromebook, it will mirror your kid's account exactly. Like it keeps the same filters and everything. And so I do feel like having that, I just now check on their accounts all the time on a Chromebook that I have here at home. And then also uh yeah, like you just log into their account. Um so I feel like actually initially with my daughter, it was just that she came home and told me like what led me into this whole deep dive was her just coming home and telling me because elementary students don't bring their Chromebooks home, right? And so then I logged in on the Chromebook we have here at home and was like, oh my goodness. So
So that would be a good pro tip then for parents who are concerned still to get their own Chromebook
yeah,
home, right? So that they could still check and access what their kids are doing at school.
yeah. So it is really weird. And we had a lot of confusion with that last year with our school district because they would tell us like, no, it'll mirror the filtering and everything will mirror the exact same if you log into it at home. But then even just Liz and I noticed like between her computer versus my computer was different, the filtering. And so what we ended up discovering, and then the school district, I don't think that they knew that either. But if it is a Chromebook, then it just mirrors exactly. You can't add any filtering. Like it will override any filtering that you have at home. So like, or bypasses. So if you have like filtering on your router, if you want to set something like add additional filtering onto their account or Chromebook, it will not let you. You cannot. So that's something that's annoying,
Mm, yeah,
but um,
but good to
but
know.
yes, and then just like awesome that in middle school that's just going to be the default, that I don't have to worry. I actually kind of feel like middle school in a lot of ways is like the worst for
Yes,
Chromebook.
it is. I will second that. From the subbing I've done this year at Granite, I will second that. It is the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in high school, I feel like a lot of the kids have phones at that point. Maybe they're slightly more mature, some of them, but and so it feels like they're using the Chromebook less to maybe access like
Yeah.
concerning things. Absolutely, they still use it to play games all day long. But so then moving on to high school, I'm just going to tell you something. I got an email this morning from my kids' high school saying, because school's ending, and it gave me a list of things that are checked out. And it says that it's telling me that his Chromebook is checked out and that it is due back on 5/18 of 2029. Yeah. So I emailed the high school last year and said I would like him to keep the Chromebook at school. And the principal said that's not an option. In high school, they check it out when they're a freshman and they keep it until they graduate.
Wow.
And so now this bill, the Balance Act, will also change that where you can request to have them leave it at school.
Good.
So, yes, I screenshotted that and sent it to my son and said, don't worry, you'll be turning it in next year.
And when you say don't worry to him, is he not actually worried?
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. He's like, he thinks that
does he think this is all dumb?
I mean, I think he recognizes like, no, it's true. I do play games for a lot of the class,
Yeah.
So I think he recognizes that, but I think he also is like, well, I don't get the games taken away.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, I feel like the biggest changes will happen in elementary as far as like what it is going to look like.
Yeah. And the thing is, that is going to impact the grades as we go, right?
Yes.
If we're nipping this in the bud in elementary and getting rid of a lot of the access that they currently have, I just think it's going to help with the the gateway to addiction that these Chromebooks are, right?
Yeah.
These Chromebooks are a gateway to digital addiction, and we need to be
totally. Yes.
So with the high school, so sorry, Ellie. Can I ask
you
you a
go
question?
ahead. Yeah.
So with the high school, it doesn't default like the middle school does of they just leave it. In high school, they do bring it home, but through the summer I can request that it stays.
Or you can request that at the end of every day it stays at the school.
But it doesn't default. I will have to request it. So
yes.
So really nothing changes with high school except for I have the option to not bring it home.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
But the default changes, right? The
default in middle school changes. So right now the default is they bring it home. It switches to they leave it at school. The default becomes they leave it at school. In high school, it will still be that they bring it home, but you can opt into saying, I want my child to leave it at school.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
and this is not taking effect till July of 2027. Why is that?
Because that's what the school districts feel like they need in order to prepare.
Okay.
So between now and July of 2027, that's when they must hold the parent meeting before the input and the comment.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to be by a certain date, just as before July of 2027.
Yes, so it does say okay, let me see where it is at. Okay. Let's see. Before July 2027, before July 1st of 2027, the school district, if they want if they're going to submit their own policy, it has to be submitted to USBE, so the state school board, before July 1st of 2027.
If they're going to change their own.
Yes.
So they might not have to, if they're going to go along with what is written, do they have to hold a meeting?
Sorry, you are breaking up, but I
Breaking up.
think that you asked if they're just going to go along with it, do they have to hold a meeting? And no, it's if they are wanting to adopt an amended version of the policy. So yeah, in some ways maybe it's like don't draw attention to it, and then the default will just become what's in the bill.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of a gamble.
Yeah, but I'm sure they know about it.
Yeah,
I
probably.
mean, yeah. So
Well, this has been really great, Allie. I've actually learned a lot from you as well about the balance.
oh, good, good. I'm happy about that.
I mean, I've heard it a lot of times, but for some reason, legislation does not stick in my brain very well. I have to hear it again and again. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
well,
And
yeah,
Shanna, we appreciate you being the star community member of Child First Policy Center. I've just dubbed you that, by the way.
yes,
Thank you. A
you
badge
are.
I will proudly wear.
But seriously, thank you for coming. And yeah, we're not gonna meet next week, right? Because it's Memorial Day. But we'll plan on meeting the following. Hello.
Hi.
We'll plan on meeting the following Monday. Does that
Yeah,
sound good? Okay.
that is good. And yeah, I will send out the follow-up email.
Thank you.
And yeah, Shanna, you're the best. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me.
Mhm. Yeah, and me too now because now we've emailed each other, so that's good.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
I
thank you. And
accidentally
Guys.
logged off. I didn't hear any of that, so sorry.
oh no, you're fine. I just said if you have any questions, you know how to reach us.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
yes,
guys so
thank you.
much.
And
I
thanks, Mom,
appreciate
for
it.
joining.
Thanks, Mom.
Georgianne, her name's
Feel
Georgianne.
better, Mom.
Okay,
Bye.
all right, see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.